There we go.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, Stellar's on too.
Jen Teller, 712 Harbor Drive, Manistee. I'm glad you're all here tonight. And I am here to represent a lot of people in Manistee who don't even know that they could lose a wonderful asset that they have here in this peninsula city surrounded by water, and that is their view to water, either Lake Michigan, man-made lake, Manistee River, Manistee Lake, all because the tree policy is very limited, very narrow for sustaining, maintaining view sheds that they might already have. The only two reasons that you can get a limb trimmed is either because it's dead or it's a safety hazard. Extremely limited. In this time and age, that is an archaic thought, and that's brought forward even by your own city mayor, who has called some of the issues she faces archaic. And I only ask that you would consider that this is a new era in leisure time and recreation and in the desires of people these days. They want their views maintained, not just ourselves, but as I mentioned, those people. Hotel owners, bar owners, restaurant owners, condo owners. If you plant trees and let them grow crazy and take away their view of water, they would be furious. They would certainly want their views maintained, especially if they're on public property that they pay taxes on. Paying taxes on something means that you have an interest and ownership in it, and that's what we all have. You have an ownership in the park. I have an ownership in the park and the things that are on it. Even the planning or the Parks Commission has been down at First Street Beach cutting away the overgrowth of limbs and brush that are taking away the view to the people that walk down there, drive down there, ride their bikes down there to see Lake Michigan and sunsets. And what we're doing is we would be taking away the opportunity to people that might not have those resources to be able to walk there, ride, because either they're old or they're infirm, but yet they would have had a view from their private residence. And we're asking that those would be maintained for them also. Now, the reason also that I'm back is that you had asked for a definition of view shed. Well, it got sent to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission said, in my case, which is just view to water, not including any structures or anything that's hardline, they said they'd keep those things that were all mentioned by Mr. McCullough. Those did not apply to our situation. Our situation of view shed, and that this is what they came up with for you, so you know. They said, an area that is visible from a certain vantage point. That's all they said. That's what the Planning Commission accepted. The rest of the definition is, especially when considered valuable or worth preserving for aesthetic reasons. That really fulfills what we're talking about here in a peninsula city that has all these wonderful water opportunities. Aesthetic reasons, what does that mean? It's relating to the sense of beauty, a heightened sensitivity to beauty. And wouldn't we all think of Lake Michigan view sheds in this way? This is a beautiful thing to maintain. It shouldn't be allowed to just be taken away because of overgrowth of urban forests. And you, as a tree commission, that's your job, to maintain what people come here for, to be able to view water in many situations, not just ours. Now, there are many facts that you've already heard, and I could go over these many times. The main thing is I went back to here when your view shed was first, compromise plan was first brought to you, and you had 4 of the 5 people on the board all said, hey, this is a plan, we can work with this. And even our chair, who put that plan together with the city manager, who certainly would want a good plan for the city.
30 seconds, ma'am.
They have said this is a good plan. So I'm just asking you to bring that compromise back to the table with a 2/3 supermajority vote that was put in place, which would mean 4 positives, and then you can discuss it and you can approve it with a simple majority, which still is going to be 4 votes. So I just ask that you would...
Thank you very much. Really
Um,
appreciate your time is up, ma'am. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, in all due respect, I'd like just 1 more minute to close.
Ma'am, our bylaws are 5 minutes. Thank you very much for your time. And you've done a great job of communicating with us through emails and everything. We've got the information. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Moving on now to unfinished business. I'd like to ask the 3 members here, have you had the opportunity to review the vegetation management plan from Harbor Springs? And are anybody prepared to have a discussion on this in the next 15 minutes that we've allotted for this today?
I've read it several times.
Jerry, could you speak closer to the microphone?
Yes. I've read it several times, but in my opinion, is it's for a discussion in a subcommittee outside of this meeting here than the results brought to this meeting here.
Okay.
Because it's pretty intensive when you get into it. It's not just the 2 pages that Ms. Teller gave us. The whole thing comprises of about 6 pages, and it's all small print, and there is a lot of discussion about what you do with neighbors and compliance and how you go through the city manager and things like that. So that's my feeling on it.
So I hear you saying there's a lot of information and a lot of details that deserve consideration and discussion. Right?
Well, I don't know whether they deserve a lot of consideration, discussion. It's just you're going to have to pull it apart and piece it apart and perhaps look at it and maybe look at some other vegetation management deals that other cities that Ms. Teller talks about all the time. All the discussion that I've seen that she brings forward here is probably like maybe 5, 6, 7 years old now. And I suspect a lot of it was perhaps with phone calls. And the only hard piece of information she got or hard data she got was what she got from Harbor Springs. So there might be others out there, who knows?
Okay. Dennis, do you have any?
Yeah, there's quite a bit in there. I think we ought to maybe piece through it. I mean, page at a time or paragraph at a time, and throw out what we don't need that definitely wouldn't apply, and narrow it down. Using that as a basis, just Harbor Springs is an awful lot to incorporate in our situation where we don't have much of anything, I think.
Right.
There will be an awful lot of policy to throw in there if we went strictly by that. I would suggest that we use it somewhere of a guideline, like I said, section at a time, maybe pick out a sentence or 2. If we really wouldn't want it to apply, we just do away with it. And then see what we come up with at the end, and then go from there and even narrow it down again maybe, but once we have bullet points in there, we can streamline it a little bit more. I mean, we don't want to really make it complicated because, you know, that goes.
Yeah.
The more complicated it is, the more complicated everything gets. That's my feeling on it. So similar
Similar to Jerry's?
to, yeah.
Okay. Dieter?
I have reviewed it briefly, and my first impression is it's way too complicated, probably written by lawyers. And I think we should I think we should discuss it, but it's too
No.
too complicated.
So, thank you. I'm hearing from the 3 of you that it deserves further review,
Correct.
right?
Oh, absolutely.
So-
Absolutely, not just, it's definitely not a situation where you just go ahead and say, yes, we want to do this, incorporate that, and let's go with it.
And it's even, also on the other hand, it's also one we don't want to just dismiss offhanded, right?
Well, you can take bits and pieces of it. What I'm gonna say you and the city manager have pieced together, has taken some of the essential parts of it and simplified it, even though you weren't quite probably aware of what you were doing.
No, I was,
Okay.
fortunately. But by the same token, I really believe we need to have a vegetation management plan in place. I really think we need to have that so we're addressing the needs of our community and of our residents. And I want it to be as clear and forthright as possible. So again, what I'd like to do, and in my capacity as a chair, I can appoint a special committee to study this and report back to the commission at a later date. So without objection, I'd like to do that right now. I'd like to appoint a special committee to review the Harbor Springs Vegetation Management Plan and report back to this commission at our meeting, our regularly scheduled meeting in September. That would be the second Monday of September because the first Monday is Labor Day. Okay? Along with that, I'd like to appoint Jerry, if you'd accept it. I'd like you to be the chair of this special committee. And if Peter and Denny's, would you approve, would you serve on it, also on this committee?
Sure.
So Jerry will call the group together, okay? You can do that, and, you know, I guess open meetings don't apply to that, right, when we're working on things?
I'm gonna say yes, I'm gonna say yes unless I'm wrong, because that's what I'm suggesting we do. Then we bring what we pulled together to the open meeting and present.
Right. So I'm gonna work under that assumption that we have a special committee assigned, and they work along those lines. I want you to feel free, though, Jerry, to again call on me, call on Sam, you know, as you're working on this, if you want any feedback from us. But the three of you are the ones that come up with the final. You know, you're the only three that have a vote, if you will. Okay. So what you guys decide you want to bring to the commission, that would be great.
Okay, I've only got one thing. Would one of you two other guys want to be chair of this group? What was that?
The only reason I'm saying I'd like you as a chair is you've got the most experience on this commission. And, you know,
We'll give it a try then.
you don't mind if the rest
We'll
are
give it a
okay
try.
with it. That'd just be the way I'd like to see that done. So just to make it clear, our expectation is that this special committee will rise and report to the commission on our meeting in September. Okay, our scheduled meeting, which will be the second Monday of September. That gives you the rest of July, the month of August to hash it out. Is that enough time? If you need more time, as you get together and you're working on this, just let us know. Come back at the next, our meeting in August, maybe, and say, guess what, we need more time.
John, if you give us more time, we will use more time. So I think,
Well,
That's
I'm
true.
making you right now, the second Monday of September, that first, meeting in September, okay?
How is your availability? Are you pretty much open?
yeah,
Okay. I am too, so whatever you.
I am too, so-
Whatever your,
I will give you a ring on email there with a couple dates and some place where we can meet.
I'm sure we're gonna need at least a couple.
Oh, we're gonna need,
Four
we're
or
gonna
five.
need, yes. So anyway, let's,
Again, I'm available also.
Great.
Anytime, just I would always let you know if I couldn't, but.
well, I'll go ahead and put some tentative dates to get us started from there.
All right.
Beautiful, thank you very much. I think that takes care of that section, unless there's other comments or concerns. Outstanding. Jerry, just one quick, if you would, just copy me, just to let me know what's going on, that's all. If, on any emails and stuff like that, that'd be appreciated, okay?
Okay.
All right, next thing on the agenda, right now, we have a 30-day limit. Somebody submits a trim request to us, a trim or removal request. We must respond back to them at 30 days. That works out really well in the summertime when we're meeting once a month, but it may not work out so well if we get, for example, a request in November and we don't have a meeting in December, or maybe not even a meeting in January. So I'd like to open the discussion here about changing this to a more days, give us more days to respond. I think within 30 days is certainly something we should shoot for, but rather than letting things fall through the crack, which they have done in the past, they have fallen through the crack and there's been no purposeful, delay in responding. But right now, it says that if we don't respond in 30 days, that respondent, the person who submitted the request, assumes that the action will happen by the city. So I think that's a little bit dangerous. Rita, you have a question?
No, I think we don't need to change this because it's not really a meeting issue. I mean,
Okay.
the chair can distribute the assignments even if we don't have meetings. And the member who gets an assignment has 30 days to do it. I'll say the same thing as I said earlier. If you give us more time, we'll lose.
Okay.
With your point about the winter months, other than a safety issue of a dead limb or a limb that's fallen, rather than any kind of tree trimming or removal, why don't we just not have any tree trimming or tree removal at all for November, December, or January, the 3 harvest months, just eliminate it? Request somebody start in February, okay.
Yeah, here's where it comes, Dennis, the actual removal and trim, a lot of it's done in the winter. Especially the total removal of the tree is done in the winter.
Right, that was, yeah.
The requests come in typically during the months that there's leaves on the trees, let's face it, because that's when we tell we've got something wrong with the tree. So, bottom line is, Vidar's got a point, leave it as it is. Jerry, and I'm sorry, I don't want to, you want a further discussion? I don't want you to cut me off.
No, I mean, why is this being considered, I guess is the question. Do they seem overwhelmed, or they can't, why is the 30-day not happening?
Because, go ahead, John.
Jerry, please.
I was going to say because there has been cases where people have, well, in the ordinance itself, it says that if the tree commission or there's a response not given to the person that submitted the response or submitted the request, within 30 days, it's automatically granted. So if a person wants 6 trees cut down, technically they are able to get that grant, okay, because they've gone beyond the 30 days and it's automatically a gimme per the ordinance. So somehow,
All right, well, I guess all I'm saying is they gotta answer people. Is that big a deal?
What
As
do
long
you
as they
mean?
respond to it within 30 days, the city or whatever, then
well,
we can say we're gonna cut
the
it.
point is that there's no, I don't think there's any paper trail to follow this through or any legitimate trail or path to follow this through. So there's a lot of things that are falling through the cracks and going beyond the 30 days. Now, right now, if you look at the old bylaws we had, the bylaws said that there would be a meeting at least once a quarter. The new bylaws don't say anything about that. So technically, we've got 6 meetings or 5 meetings we say in there. We can have all those in June, July, and August and call it good for the year. But in the meantime, we are getting requests coming through quite often, and there's no system to follow through to make sure that this thing is responded to in 30 days. And so if it's not responded to, this person wants something done with this tree, it's granted that.
And again, it may not be,
It may not be kosher to
it
do.
may not be within our current guidelines, which are, it's trimmed or removed due to safety hazard, or, you know, the tree is dying or dead.
Right. And like John said, many of the trees, the requests come in the summertime because it's obvious that, you know, you've got a green leaf tree and it no longer has any green leaves on it, so the tree is a problem. You normally don't look at the trees in the wintertime because they all look the same.
Let me, we've got the real expert here, and she's sitting over here. Katie?
Not an expert yet.
When these requests come in, today, I would assume you are putting them together and bringing them to these monthly meetings. Is that
Correct.
right?
And I have one from June, but the meeting was canceled, so this one is, the clock's ticking on this one. That's,
Well, that's not their fault, that's our fault.
well, it's my fault, because I
It's
probably,
somebody's fault.
It's not
It's somebody, but
citizens' fault.
but whatever the request is, it's technically granted to whoever submitted that because
Yeah.
we haven't replied back in 30 days.
Well, how much time would you give her? I mean, you can't go out, you don't wanna go out 60, 90 days, I mean, geez,
What if you go 90 days?
why? When you're gonna put a request in January, nobody's gonna get to it, you're allowed till March or April, that's kinda crazy too, I think.
I know it is, I know it is. That, from that
Well,
standpoint, yes it is.
The work may not be done.
Right.
The request has to be
Right,
processed.
that's what I'm saying.
Let me,
You don't- the
let me
work
just,
has to
let
be
me
done
offer,
first.
let me offer a bit of a compromise, just or a process. When these requests come in, and they come in to Kate, right? I mean, you're the one that, you see it first.
right.
Right? When those come in, I don't believe from now on, we shouldn't wait. You should contact me
Okay,
as the chair,
I can do that.
and then I can say, assign it to Dennis,
Yeah.
or assign it to Peter, and, you know, that type of thing.
Maybe that's part of the problem, that we were waiting till our meeting happens before we even address these, well, we're sure 3 or 4 weeks can go by. That's more of a
Well,
problem. I
that's
think.
what I was
Exactly.
gonna ask. Katie, when you got this, it's back in June that you got this now. Why are you still hanging on to that and didn't follow up and give it to?
Because she didn't know. She-
Well, that's, I think, what we have to set up.
Right.
Some stream or some pathway for
So
this.
the process that I'm recommending today to address it, let's keep it at 30 days. I agree, as Peter says, give them more time and we'll take more
That's
time.
correct, I agree with you.
So, but the process will be, a request comes into Katie, immediately she places a phone call or an email to me.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
just email.
Okay, I can scan them, scan it and just send
If
it
you
to
can
you.
scan it, that would be
Scan it to you?
beautiful.
Okay, I'll do that.
Gentlemen, can everybody receive and print out a document
Yeah.
at home? Okay.
After I-
We've all got that technology at home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
And then just let me assign one of
Okay.
our commission members to,
That's what I was gonna say, just whatever, sign them every week if they come in, or 2 or 3 and clean them up and just tell them we gotta get.
well, I mean, they're gonna be, I would say we process them as they are,
Yeah, that's
as
what I
we
mean.
go, immediate.
Whether it's 2, 3, 4 weeks, go out there, we can take, get them taken care of. It's not that big a deal. I don't think it's that long of a deal.
And I'd also say, once Katie gets it off her desk to me, it's my responsibility then as a chair to make sure that the loop is closed. So I'll follow up, for example, Dennis, if she sends me one, and I say, Dennis, you do it? Dennis says, okay. And I say, Dennis, when are you gonna do this? And this is next week, and then, just close the loop with me on an email. I did it,
Okay,
it's
okay.
back,
One more thing, I
yeah.
agree with what you're saying, but why don't you have Dennis or me or whoever it is, once we get it, deliver it down to Katie,
Okay,
right down to the Department of Public Works and say, it's on her desk now, it's back.
great.
Yeah, because that's what you've been
Because
doing.
otherwise,
Right, you just bring it to me.
Sounds good.
By doing what you did, you just put yourself back in the loop. You don't
Well,
go back in the loop.
the only reason I want to be back in the loop is because I'm taking accountability for it to be
Okay,
done.
but what you can do is.
So you email me, that's just it, but
Right, there you
take
go.
the
Have her
forum to
email
Katie.
back to you and just have us take it down to her.
And then Katie, it's absolutely critical that a phone call be made and documented, you know, or an email, preferably an email that you can document.
Okay.
Says,
Okay.
thank you, it's been approved, we'll
Okay.
get to it, we'll be in touch.
Now, the email is going where? To you?
To the,
Well, I'm talking to the client.
The client may not have email service.
If they don't, then it's a
That's
phone call.
Right. You can note that also.
Yeah, but just document that on
Okay.
that piece of paper, I would suggest.
Do you, roughly, I know you can't have an exact, what do you think you take in any given week? What, 2 or 3 requests, 5 to 10?
A week?
No.
Yeah, for a week. I mean, if I'm beginning of the month, let's say January, average, I mean, is it, you know, 20?
Let's ask, Katie, how many do you have for us today?
one from June.
That's all?
At last meeting, I got one from her also. So this apparently came in after.
After, like, yep, like the next day, I
What I'm
think.
getting at, if we have 2 or 3, you give them to me or give them to whoever, I would think, you know, each time you get out for 2 hours or an hour and take care of those 3, I don't think it's be that big a deal.
No.
Now, if we got 15 of them you want me to take care of.
No. And I think I would be doling them out.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to give you.
I don't think, you know, over the year, I think we've never had more than 5.
Well, that's what I mean, I don't see why we couldn't get it done, once we get it, whoever it may be, within a week even, to say, hey, I'll take a couple hours Tuesday and go catch these 3 or
Right.
4. I don't think that's that big a
That's
deal.
kind of what I do.
This way avoids what you're saying about the automatically getting done, we should be able to get that done, I think. Barring some real bad circumstances, something like that, but I mean.
You know, if something, you
Does
know,
anybody leave for the, other than that, leave for the winter here, let's put it that way?
for the winter,
Is everybody available, that's here right now,
Well,
anyway?
that was my next question, is that when you can't reach John, what are you going to do for the next step?
well, you're the vice chair.
Okay? But
That's,
Dennis is asking a good question.
it rolls downhill.
You know, like I was looking at, the last tree commissions, or the last folks on that, going back when I joined this thing back several years ago, you know, everybody was a snowbird, and that's how, even in the bylaws, they had 1 meeting per quarter. They were down to 3 or 4 meetings in June, July, and August, September. I mean, they weren't even following the bylaws, because they all left for the winter. So there was nobody left to do anything to begin with.
Well, that's, I guess I brought it up, I was thinking.
Right.
So we can at
So
least
you're
get
here.
a quorum here to take care
Right.
of that.
We should have a quorum,
Right.
you know,
Okay.
and we will call.
Maybe for the winter,
No.
okay.
He doesn't, if he goes any place, he's going to Norway, and you don't go there in the winter, right?
All right.
Well,
Well, why don't, you know what, a good point, why don't we have a list of 3 or 4 people down the line in case you can't be reached? And that should, her phone call, you should make a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever.
That's.
So that, you know, so long as 2 people can't get reached, and then you don't wanna be stuck, you just move on to the next person.
Right, and I would do that anyway.
I mean, it doesn't matter really, as long as we get the forms, we
Right.
already know what to do.
I would,
Correct.
yeah, I would just offer to you that I'm connected. I get emails immediately, I respond immediately,
Well, I'm just-
whether I'm in town or not, and I can
Oh, yeah.
pull these things out, whether I'm in town or not. That's the beauty of technology nowadays.
But there's, like he's saying, there's that one if.
Yeah, so if there's,
I don't think it hurts just to have a list of going down the list.
Covered.
I mean, if we get down to somebody that's not here, we're kind of in trouble
Yeah.
anyway.
my suggestion, Katie, is just by last name
Put it on the
alphabetically.
list, right. And that's what I would normally do.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
All right, so Katie, are you clear? Because this is,
I am clear.
just to make sure it's in the notes or in there, our minutes, every request for trim or removal that comes in will immediately be, I'll be notified. You will send it via a scan,
Scan, email.
and I will assign it then to one of the tree commission members for action. You've already done a great job of this, but just to further reiterate, I think it's really important that we make contact with the citizen, with the client, you know, try to knock on their door and make sure that they know we were there. If they're not there, at least leave them a message, a phone message or an email saying, you know, I think that's especially important if we're not going to approve it.
That's another good point. Katie, should we make up a short form? We were here from the tree commission, you were not available, we want you to know we were here.
Well,
Should we put a little statement or something?
I'm gonna say no, we're then too complicated. Why don't we just knock on the door and see what's going on?
Oh, no, what I'm saying, if they're not home.
If they're not
leave
home-
something in the mailbox or at the door.
on the form, they've got a phone number
Right,
at minimum.
I'd call them back and.
An email.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully.
Right.
So I think person to person, real-time contact.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I
Number
just
one.
wondered if you couldn't get a hold of them, they're not there, but okay.
All right. Very good. I think we've got a process in place then. Thank you very much for the discussion. I think that's really important. All right. I wish Jeff were here, Katie, because I don't want to put you on the spot. But I'm getting phone calls saying, when are my trees going to be
Me too.
planted?
So they're on order per Jeff, and the contractor, I believe, is, so he has to, go into the MISDIG system, and he can only, I guess there's a quantity that you can only choose at one point in time, so that's all I know.
Who's your contractor?
Anthony's Outdoor Services.
One of the things that would be very helpful, if it's at all possible, the contractor, if we could have them contact the homeowner before, like the day
He
before.
will. I have a folder with all of the forms, and he will take that, and that's what I've been telling them, that he'll call or stop
I
by.
think that's really important
Right.
because
They've staked their areas. And
I've got the
there's just a-
stakes out,
Right,
but my lawn service removes them every time.
Yeah,
And I
right.
gotta put them back.
right,
And sometimes I'm, not home.
right,
And if they come tomorrow, the stakes aren't there.
right.
So,
John, one thing that I've noticed in the past when they've done this is that before Anthony comes out, there is somebody coming out to spot the gas lines and so on.
okay.
So you will see some flags out there, and that's why they request to put your post where you want the tree.
Okay.
So that's gonna flag anybody that something's happening.
Okay, I know that hadn't happened
That
for me.
hasn't happened
I
yet.
think they have to do that. They don't want to dig in the spot. Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't want to be digging in the spot. They're gonna, exactly.
They
Yeah.
request you to go ahead and move it someplace, but they're gonna verify it so you're not hitting the gas line or water line or the sewer line.
And that's exactly where those utilities are, in the right of way.
Right.
Right, so. All right, so bottom line is, what do you think, what are we telling people, Katie, as far as
Just that the contractor will be in touch.
contractor be in touch sometime in the next 90 days?
I'm not giving a time frame to anybody.
Okay, I guess the question becomes, and this would be a great question for our arborist, for Josh, when should we not plan to plant?
Right,
How late in the season,
right.
when it's too late to plant.
Right.
So,
When the snow flies.
well,
Yeah,
Is that, speaking of the gas lines and water lines, is that something we should tell the client? Because they don't know where they're at initially.
no,
the
I know, but
contractor.
Should we let them know that their stake may have to be moved due to gas lines or water lines? Some people get, they want it here, and if they don't want it here, it's not going anywhere, you know what I mean?
Well, I think the folks that come out and do that, they're gonna say, here it is. And then Anthony will come out and say, hey, per our deal, we gotta be 15 feet away from this gas line, so we can't put it where
Well,
it's
yeah, that's what I'm
needed.
getting at. Some people are, I want it there, well, I can't put it there. So
Can't,
then
I
it's,
mean, just paint.
yeah,
I mean,
right, that's what I mean,
Well, I think someplace in the paperwork, when we signed on for this, it talks about something of that nature, doesn't it?
Is there some notice in it that it may not be able to go exactly where you want it?
The paperwork says that you should put the stakes in, then call the city garage.
Right, and that's what they've been
They
doing.
gotta come
Right,
out and they're gonna
right.
check.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, getting her.
Yeah, because he'll have to approve, we'll have to approve it.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on the tree purchase program? By the way, what's the final number, Katie?
I think we're around 50.
That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Excellent.
Not bad, you know.
Let's see what we have.
So when you stop and think about it, I think that's probably
You know, if-
almost 10 trees more than was cut down last year.
Yeah.
Is that, do you know, I don't know if you do, is that replacing trees or are those kind of all new spots or do you have a breakdown on that? You know what I mean, are they replacing a tree that was taken out?
I don't have a break, no, I don't have a
I
breakdown.
was just wondering if, you know, we got quite a few new people that wanted trees, that's all, you know, rather than having them replaced.
Like,
No
the
big
four I
deal.
ordered are gonna go where there's no trees now.
Right,
I haven't been. But, again, it's a good location. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Katie. Thank you, and pass that on to Jeff. Okay, so you got one tree request? That's our next thing. Before I move on, though, is there any other unfinished business?
Yes.
Okay.
We forgot approval of the minutes, May 9th, 17th.
Oh, God, thank you. You should have got me early. You should have all received a copy of the minutes from May 17th. Is there any additions or corrections to those minutes?
Not for me.
Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Thank you, Jerry. Somebody's got to keep me in line, you know? All right, so we got one tree removal request?
COVID does affect the mind a little bit.
I'm sorry?
Never mind.
One tree removal request, that's it? Thank you. For a trim request.
Yeah, that must have came in this, maybe the day after.
Well, if it's all right with everybody, it's in my neighborhood,
Was that Ryan Street, you said?
Bryant, so I'll take it.
I second the motion.
All right. I will take action on this.
John, when you take.
Well, you know, here's the point. I take action on it tomorrow, which is the 12th. This is the 16th, we'll be done.
Okay.
We're good.
Good.
Yeah, so
I will
snow
take
falls-
action
snow
tomorrow.
will fall in there, okay, well, that's good then.
All righty. So, any other new business?
I'm not sure if this relates to new business because it's kind of with new business as well as old business, I guess, based on, you know, we're coming up with a tree plan of some kind with this trimming and everything. I'd like to make a motion to untable her thing, or, you know, Jennifer's thing then for right now. Because if we don't, well, then she's left out somehow since we've tabled it. I just say we untable that until we, you know, get something here that will fall in, and then if she does or she doesn't, then at that time under the guidelines. But if she's tabled, we can't do anything, I mean, we can't even discuss it.
Right.
So that's all I'm saying is maybe make a motion to untable her for right now, until we come up with a plan and then see where that falls, that's all. And either it falls in or it falls out.
So if we untable it,
Or.
then we have to take action. We have to say yes or no to the request. That's what's,
So until we get this paperwork taken care of, I think I'm with John, is we'll just leave it set where it's at for the moment.
okay, if we untabled and it was the compromise that was put forward, we have to then take action on it. And the action can be no, the action can be yes. But, so, I would be more comfortable taking it off, putting it back on the table, once we have agreement on a vegetation.
I see your point, yeah. But I think we should consider that for her.
Oh, absolutely.
Since we are coming up with something. I don't know.
We are, again, we're working towards this vegetation management plan to address the concerns of the citizens. So, okay? Anything else? Well, it's time now for comments, announcements. From the group, I'll start with Jerry. What would you like to say?
I've got nothing.
Got nothing? Thank you.
I've
Peter,
said
do you have
enough
any
already.
comments that you'd like to put on the record?
No, not at all.
Thank you. Dennis?
The only thing I was gonna ask Katie, were most of the ones, or if not all, requests been approved from the ones you've gotten, the last group? Have we had any turn downs for any particular reason possibly? The only reason I ask that is, if myself, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing, and if they want to look at them, or, I just like to know, what our guidelines, we're kind of following. So has there been any, if you have that, turned down for any possible reason?
Let me, the last one I did, I think the lady requested to cut down the trees.
Yeah, that's the one
I said no, because the trees were quite healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was chestnut trees,
Mhm.
and they're just dirty. I says, no, they're quite healthy. And she also had a concern with, the sidewalk buckling and so on, and I said, it's not too bad off. But I said, yes, we can go ahead and trim over the sidewalks because it gets pretty heavy falling on the sidewalks. So my recommendation was to go ahead and trim the trees up, but leave the trees there. So,
Did you get a feedback from the resident who requested that? What did they have to say?
I was talking to her,
Yeah.
so she said, fine.
Okay, so they got positive
Right,
feedback.
because I told her I wasn't gonna recommend cutting them down, because I said they're good trees. And she says, it's just so messy. I says, yeah, they're messy, that's that kind of tree, but they're nice, healthy trees. But I can see there's some dead limbs up here on the side, over the top of the sidewalk and so on, so.
Just need a trimming.
Right, so
I was just wondering if, if there was anyone who's really turned down, again, so that our recommendations, are we kind of in the ballpark following them? I guess that's all I'm asking.
Or the other thing that was involved with that was that the power line was going right through them, so I recommended to trim to protect the power line or do something there. Because that was there, and that was part of their concern also, being so close to the power line. And then also, as we were looking there, just to follow up, the utility pole that the power line was hooked to, and I says, oh my God, there is a bigger concern right there. You should be calling Consumers Power and have them take a look at that pole. That pole is rotted out on the top. Or the wires attached. There was, the attachment up there at the top of the pole, there was 3 bolts in there and 2 of the bolts were gone, so it's just dangling there. And it looked like the pole had a heyday with woodpeckers too.
Yeah, maybe we need a pole replacement more than anything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's important that we remember that our job is looking at it right now, is looking at it from the standpoint of safety and health of the tree. The power lines and that, we don't trim, the city doesn't trim the power to the power lines. The power company is responsible for that. And, they've got to be on that. And again, the homeowner can certainly contact the power company.
That's what I recommended,
The arborist is still, Josh, he's still on call if we need him.
Yes, and
I just want to know if it's.
yes, absolutely. One of the things I just wanted to comment on is Josh Shields is doing a great job in this community with many different seminars that he's putting on.
Right.
And we should take advantage of that as a commission, just to get to know Josh and get to see the work he's doing.
You contact him? I don't even interrupt. You contact him once in a while? Or is he-
Oh, yeah, I'm on with
Could
him.
you have him possibly send us emails when he has these seminars?
You bet.
That means
I know I'm on his email list, and
Oh. Or
I
phone?
was assuming you guys were too, but I'll make sure that he.
I got one from him, that's quite a while ago, so
Okay.
if he's conducting those, I'd like to know about him also.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to, just so you all know, we got a request just from City Hall here to have an assessment of the trees on the City Hall property looked at. So I'm asking Josh to work on that with me, if that's all right with you guys. There's just some concern that some of the trees are actually touching the building and maybe degrading things, and we don't know. That's, Josh knows those things.
We drive around towards, right off River Street there. There's a couple, there's probably nobody there, I don't know if that property's already on, whether like a client would call. There's a couple of dead ones hanging there that, because I don't think anybody, it's not on their property, so out of the city property, there's probably a few that could be cut down and taken out.
So what I would recommend is you, as a person in the tree commission, get one of those forms and
Yeah.
fill it out.
That's what I was just gonna say, if
Well,
I
that's
see
true.
one, can I do it that way? Because
Why not?
again, I don't think there's any to do it, you know, and request it, because.
Gotta be, the only
So-
thing
so
is,
why don't I-
if there's any question at all whether it's on public property, that's the next question.
Well, I guess you could put on the form, look at this or verify, is it our property or
Right.
my property, and look at the tree, please, if it is.
Yeah, and then what'll happen through the normal sequence of things, it should go back to Katie, and then it should be assigned out to us. And it could be back to you.
Yeah.
That's fine, I'm just saying, I just noticed
No,
a few,
but I mean,
it looks like they're the no man's land, so I don't know who they belong to, but they could probably definitely get removed.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned at 5:50. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jerry, I appreciate
Just so you all know,
guidelines on setting the time limit.